When you look at the politics in this country, it does not make sense. At least not for me. You say to yourself, how is it that a government that is supposed to lead a country and its people towards prosperity and peace and stability and all those kinds of things, it looks like they are doing the exact opposite? How does it make sense? Especially with the economy, does it make sense? And the answer is yes, it does make sense. Let me explain.
Radio Nuwe. Your Christian lifestyle radio station. Chat with Corné. We scratch where it itches.
Welcome, you beautiful people of this beautiful country. My name is Corné, and welcome to Chat with Corné. It is a chat program, which means I've got the microphone, but you are welcome to also share your opinions or your questions, whatever is on your mind, to comment. And you can do that in two different ways. You can use this number here and send it to us via Telegram or WhatsApp. Or you can also do the good old thing of sending us an email, and that you can do to that address there. So please be in contact if you feel you have something that's on your mind that you would like us to know. Now, does it make sense what is happening in this country politically? And the almost obvious response from most people would be no, it does not make sense. But it does. And the reason for that, I can summarize in one phrase: the National Democratic Revolution. They do not pay me for this, but this book says Countdown to Socialism, the National Democratic Revolution in South Africa since 1994, written by Anthea Jeffrey. This book, if you are still struggling in your mind, why and how and what's going on, this book in my mind is the clearest answer. And she explains in this book, she goes through all the different categories that we look at, from the constitution to issues on the judicial system, the water, the mining, the land, property, healthcare, all those kinds of spheres in the country. And she talks through each one and explains what is happening there. Historically, now, and what has happened since they've adopted these kind of measures, and what the end will likely be with that. So, a bit of history. Basically, let's start with, in 1922, the Communist Party of South Africa was founded, based on Lenin's communism, which was a global attack on capitalism. And in South Africa, the Communist Party got the ANC to work with them towards a similar outcome. In 1953, Russia started support for all the active revolts against capitalism and colonialism. And in 1960, the Communist Party and the ANC adopted a military or armed struggle. And so we all know about Umkhonto we Sizwe, with Nelson Mandela being the first head of that. And they did not have much success until 1976 with the Soweto uprising, which is another story. I'm not going to go into any much history beyond just it's been coming a while. It's what I want to say with this. It's been going for like 100 years. And basically what the National Democratic Revolution is the answer to this question. How do you move a country from where it is now, during that stage, a colony? How do you move a country from that towards communism as quick as possible? That is the question. And the National Democratic Revolution is the answer to that question of this is how you do it. You move a country from where it's at now, from colonialism. The next step is democracy. The next step is socialism. The next step is communism. And all the things that you see in our country can be explained by our governments buy into this philosophy, and they have been trained the specific steps on how do you do that. And that's what this book explains in great detail. What are the strategies and tactics that you use to do that? And by the way, the first, they started the NC's paper on this was called Strategy and Tactics. And the Communist Party's paper was called The Road to South African Freedom. It started way back 100 years ago. It is still going. It is still the same thing. And on a practical point, one of the first places where you could see this play out was in the 1950s in Indonesia, which used to be a Dutch colony. So by 1957, they've nationalized the Dutch companies. They've expelled the Dutch nationals, and the economic downturn or destruction, frankly, was swift and huge, to such an extent that in 1957 the US ambassador said, "This is national suicide." And the communists look at this thing and say, no, this is national democracy. Now my question is, does that sound familiar? We look at our country and we say, how can this be? What you are doing, government, is national suicide. You are killing the economy. You are making it so difficult for small businesses, well, any business, to grow. You have terrible racial laws. You are killing or destroying everything that you have in your hands, all the state-owned entities or enterprises. It looks like, from our point of view, national suicide. And they say, no, it is national democracy. It is the same terminology. And you will hear now when you listen to the radio or to television that the politicians still have the same language because they are still in the same struggle. The struggle for them did not stop in 1996. Until we get to communism, they are going at it full tilt with all the niceties and the destruction that goes with it, because that is the plan. What you see on television and experience in your life is not the result of a useless government. It is the result of a government who is dead set on achieving their goals written in their papers and the steps which they have been trained in properly on how to achieve that. That is what you see. So it makes sense. It makes sense in a very scary way, I almost want to say. So, that is the situation. What do we do with this information? And the practical term in my mind is you state-proof yourself as much as possible. In practical terms, you take responsibility for your life and the stuff in your life, everything in your domain. You take responsibility for that as much as possible. That means in practice, you do things like get involved in your community, join community organizations, big and small, anything from community policing to the bigger organizations like Solidariteit or whatever that may be. It means that you become as independent as possible in a lot of different spheres in your own life. It includes things in my mind like schooling. If you don't like what they teach your child in school, there are a million options to homeschool. If you say, well, I can't, it's not a problem. There are a lot of people who can, and they've got little hubs, training centers where you can take your child to do homeschooling in a center with other children. You can become independent with your own food. You don't need to be a farmer to grow food. If you have a few square meters, you can grow food in containers and towers, and you can grow food in your garden. There is almost not a South African that can tell me they don't have any place to grow food. No, you won't be self-sufficient completely, but you can grow a lot of food so that if things go south, you can survive. It is part of taking responsibility, becoming self-sufficient, state-proofing yourself as much as possible. You can do that with finances. I had a talk on the Afrikaans version of this, Klets met Corné, about the Free Market Foundation's paper on maybe looking at Bitcoin as a payment between people and organizations. Why? Because you can state-proof yourself that way. You can do independent or parallel business to the existing system. You can do that with your own health up to a point. You don't need to go and take everything that everybody says from the government side. Gazillion things that you can do in that field. I'll make more content in that line as we move forward as well. So lots of options, friends. That is the answer. If you are prepared to take responsibility and do stuff. There are brilliant things in this country. Krachtdag has been going for, 14 years, something like that. It is such a good experience to be there. So if you have not been there in Gauteng, please make a point, find them online and go there. If not as a business, then as a visitor, just to go see what people do who aren't sitting around waiting for answers necessarily. They are actively doing stuff to supply their own energy, to farm in better ways that will make you more state-proof. People that look at life not from a give me point of view, but what do I do? What can I do to provide for my family and then also for the community around me? So there are lots of things to do, but you need to be looking at state-proofing yourself if you want to survive the national democratic revolution idea. Until the day, at least, when this government is no more. But until that day, it does not matter who the person on the big chair is. It could be anyone. The system is broken. And if you don't think the system is broken, or say, but what do you mean? It sounds like a good idea to move from colonialism towards socialism, and look at the evidence all over the world on what it does when a country moves towards communism. The farther they go down that road, the more destruction there is in the country. Without exceptions. What might look like exception to you of socialist countries that's a bit of a discussion. Because like anything, there's not a pure version of any of these things on earth. And it's because of the way they implement stuff, especially on the financial side of things, economically. If you think about China, for example, the economy is not run in a communist way. I can guarantee you. In any case, so my quick answer for today is there's a problem. It looks like madness of a government that looks hell-bent on doing things that destroy the country in almost any way that you can measure. It's not accidental. They have been trained properly to do that in order to move a country. And because people have resisted that and have taken them to court and are taking them to court the whole time on an ongoing basis, because they do everything against their own country's constitution, because people are kicking back and throwing spanners in the works the whole time, and because people are state-proofing themselves, because people have said, if Eskom cannot, then we will put on our own solar. And they say, no, you can't, and people do in any case. Because of that, we have come to this point. And if we continue with that, almost, I want to say, struggle, if you continue with state-proofing yourself, taking responsibility, doing things that the government sometimes say you cannot do it, then we might survive this thing and get another system in place. I hope it makes sense. The best advice I can have for you, if you are still, I mean, this is very, touch and go. Please go find this book online, Countdown to Socialism by Anthea Jeffrey. That woman should get some kind of prize in a good advertising speak. Give her a bells. She deserves that. Go find that book, read it, and it will all make so much sense. Until we speak again, dear friends, have a wonderful, blessed day.
Radio Nuwe. Your Christian lifestyle radio station.